Right, we are live. We are live. Brilliant, yeah, and thanks for everybody who was tuned into the first episode of Try Imitating This, season 1, episode 1, bit of a pilot episode, really. So I'm Gaz, and I've got Largo Caballero with me. Hopefully we've made a new YouTube star with Largo, and thanks for tuning in, everybody. Everybody who's watching. First thing I just want to go to.
If I may interject, today's show is brought to you by Market Bottle Shop of Preston for all your beery needs. Go to Market Bottle Shop near Preston Market.
For people, for free publicity. We were going to mention them later on in the show. Yeah, there you go. So yes, I've actually got.
We can mention them a couple of times.
Yeah, we've got our sponsors, right? Okay, they did give us a 10% discount. This is Moon Rabbit Stay. It's only 0.5%. I'm being good at the minute. I've been in hospital recently, so I've got to be good. So yeah, mainly it happened to me this week. It's quite interesting. This show sits on a couple of it's an interesting axis between. It's not mainstream media, but it's not conspiracy circus either. And somebody got into a conversation with me. They asked me basically flat out, "Are you a conspiracy theorist?" That's good. It's an interesting question, that, Largo, about what is a conspiracy theory.
Did Jesse Ventura, the former wrestler and actor, said things that he believed as he was told as conspiracy theorists are now accepted, and now are pretty much accepted as fact.
Yeah, because a conspiracy theory, as I could say, if you were looking for a dictionary definition on one, a conspiracy theory is something that if you have an official narrative of an event, you say you have an explanation of an event, then what is lazily it's basically anything that isn't that. Yeah. So if you don't believe the official narrative around whatever it was, 9/11, or say Jerry and Kate McCann or anything like that, you're a conspiracy theorist. Right? But of course, some conspiracy theories, like the one about the Hillsborough disaster,
or the thing that went around the world.
Right. So the one about the Hillsborough disaster conspiracy theory, the official narrative at the time, and thanks to our friends at that lovely publication, The Sun, they were putting it around.
I can give you a conspiracy theory that you've probably never heard of.
Go
on. England's 1994 World Cup qualifying campaign was littered. England were the victims of several terrible refereeing decisions. Rumour has it that was done on the command of the United States Police Department, because at the 1994 World Cup they did not want to have to deal with English hooligans. So no UK team qualified for that tournament. That's a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying it's a fact, but it's out there.
I can't believe that for a multitude of reasons.
I don't.
The only really bad refereeing decision I can think
Holland.
of was that's the only one, right?
Holland.
It was the one in Rotterdam. That's with David Platt going through on goal and Koeman dragged him down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But decided that you at the start of your theory, you said there was a kind of litany of them. There wasn't.
No, in fact, there was a few things happened to Wales as well at key moments.
But Wales
in the game against Romania, and there was other games. No, there is a few. I'll have to find the article and send it you. But there's a list of them.
All right, well, let's look at that one then.
Because it wasn't just England. There was Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland. No UK team.
Right. So all right, let's go through this then. The Wales one doesn't make any sense because Wales were given a penalty in that game, but they missed.
Okay, I haven't studied it. But it's a conspiracy theory. It's an example of a conspiracy.
So that one can't work. Wales were actually given a penalty at 1-1 against Romania. Had they scored, they'd have probably won, and they'd have gone to that World Cup. They didn't score it. Northern Ireland were rubbish. They were no good at the time. They were never going to call
a draw with Republic.
They did in the last game at home in Belfast, right? But they were never going to qualify themselves. They were never good enough to qualify themselves. And Scotland were pretty much the same. They were kind of transitioning between one team and the next. So yeah, that was. I'd be inclined not to believe that one. I'd be inclined not to believe
it's a
that
conspiracy.
One. Yeah. I was just talking to somebody about that conspiracy theory thing, and they were saying, you're a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I think what happens, Largo, is you get people on the mainstream who swallow the mainstream narrative, right? But then and they don't apply critical thinking.
Yeah.
And then you get people who are like professional conspiracy theorists, and they do the same thing but the other way around. Right?
I mean, people pay a lot of money to watch David Icke.
Yeah, but or some of these conspiranoid channels you see on the internet.
Alex Jones.
Yeah, there's loads of them, and you've got quite a few in Britain now, and they wheel out the same old people. Have you seen that John Wedger? He's everywhere.
Do you know what annoys me right now?
What?
Auditors.
Auditors? It's a bit of a random tangent, but go on. What's annoying about auditors?
They basically turn up somewhere, like a police station or an army barracks or a refugee reception centre or somewhere, and start videoing it. And then someone will come out and say, hello, why are you videoing this place that could potentially, why are you visiting obviously, if you're videoing something like those places mentioned, you'd be like, is that going to be the target for some kind of aggressive attack? I'm hesitating to use the T word. And then they go, no, I'm just an individual. I'm just a private citizen videoing this place because I can. Well, could you not do that? No, I'm going to keep doing it. And then it all kicks off and the police get called and it's YouTube hits. It's just insincere. It's tacky. It's cringe. And I hate it. Auditors. Hate it.
Well, speaking of things that are insincere and tacky and make you cringe, do you want to have a quick chat about these riots, in quotes, that happened a week and a half ago?
Yeah, sure.
What was your take on them? What was the takeaway from them for you? How did you feel about them? Or
okay. What I think, hard to articulate this without getting into trouble. Problem reaction. So I think that it kind of suited the government for them to happen, because then they could come down with tough sentences for people doing said riot attacks.
Okay.
I'm not saying the government had or government forces had any role in them. It's just quite. I'll
help you out here slightly. I very much think they did. I very much think that the police and the intelligence services had plants or agent provocateurs.
And if I was
in amongst the trouble, and I think certainly there were real people who joined in, and they were foolish and stupid for joining in.
What I'm going to say is, if I was handing out sentences, I wouldn't have handed out a custodial sentence, because if you think somebody is a political extremist, putting them in jail will not rid them of their extreme views.
Well, that's part of the problem, isn't it, Marco? It's the fact that
if you have a guy who is a religious or a political extremist, and then you put him in jail with loads of people who are also like that, you're not gonna Did you not learn anything from the H blocks? It's you're not going to rid them of their extreme political views. If anything, you're going to solidify those views.
Yeah, but the interesting thing with this, you might even create people who weren't like that. I mean, prison makes a lot of people worse, but I don't think that the people who are,
Also, I think it was a wrong sentence, because
the people in the government, come on, we don't really have a fascism or Nazi or far right, whatever term. We don't have that problem in this country. We have a lot of angry, frustrated, confused people, sure, but we don't. But also,
it wasn't a sincere political protest, because I don't think I've ever seen any pictures of any Chinese people in Tiananmen Square protesting with cans of lager in the hand, with cans of Madri and Carling,
No, it's not. It wasn't. No, this
if you're in a serious political protest, you don't do it with a can of Madri in your hand.
That is sort of what made the real far right dangerous, though, isn't it? Is that they were very focused and very motivated. Look, we haven't had an organised far right in this country for about 50 years.
Not since what was it? Those
since the National Front, the National Front in the 70s, but it was last time.
There was the British movement or something, and all of them guys. Yeah.
I tell you what, I picked up this magazine, right, because they were on about one of them called National Action. It's called Notes from the Borderland. So I ordered it in the post. And it's funny, really, because they're into this same thing that you get from organisations like Hope Not Hate, dodgy, deep state sort of, connections to MI5 and things like that. And what they do is they take there are these little one-man-dog outfits in, operating out of somebody's bedroom somewhere, or it's three guys in a flat. It's like the modern day Wolfie Smith and his mates.
Yeah.
But they get like a page in a magazine like this, or they get a link on Hope Not Hate. National Action was probably had more infiltrators than real members.
Really?
Yeah. Have you ever seen the interview with that Robbie Muller on YouTube? If anyone who's watching it, please do go watch it. It's Robbie Muller. It just looks like a simpleton. I'm sorry. Right?
Was he on ITV2, an ITV documentary?
There was that drama that depicted
drama.
There was a drama that depicted him. Yes,
and it was with Stephen Graham.
Yeah, and it made out that he was like this heroic sort of whistleblower. Who had like a pang of conscience. What was he doing in there in the first place?
He did seem like a bit dim.
Yeah, and it was one of those. It's relevant because I remember it was one of those last things that I ever watched on mainstream news on television. Yeah. And I went, you are having a laugh. If you expect me to take this at face value, so he joins a quote far right organisation, right, that's talking about killing people, and he goes, "Oh my God! When I joined a far right organisation, I didn't think we'd do things like that. Oh, do me a favour, And he goes running to Hope Not Hate. Oh, please."
Yeah, I know. Perhaps somebody in the chat. I don't know if you got the chat working. Perhaps somebody in the chat can help me. I remember a series from the 80s called Fairly Secret Army, which was starring Jeffrey Palmer, and it was a comedy, and it was about a guy who'd been decommissioned from the army, and he was trying to form together some kind of I think it was paramilitary group to take over the UK. It was kind of pathetic, but it was kind of funny. I don't know. Have you seen it at all?
No. What was it called? We can always have ChatGPT.
I think it was called Fairly Secret Army, and it was starring Jeffrey Palmer, and it was very funny. It's from the 80s.
Okay. Well, I'll ask ChatGPT in a second. But in terms of these riots, I have my take on this, which is that. Look, we don't really have a far right. We don't have an organised, large-scale far right in this country.
No, not like in countries like Serbia or.
No, we don't. Right? We just don't. And we have that kind of politics and everything. And these people who got caught up in these skirmishes,
too lazy for starters.
Or drunk. They all said
too drunk, too lazy.
They all said about being too pissed to fight, right? And the thing is that. You get these the psychology of this. I'll explain it. The guy who's cutting my hair actually. We got talking about this, and sometimes it's okay to talk that kind of thing in the bar, and sometimes it isn't. Depends on the intelligence of the two people involved. But we got to this thing about that the riots in terms of what they were about. The far right. These people are not far right. They are angry, frustrated, confused people who they don't understand what's going on.
And it's for that reason I wouldn't have given them a custodial sentence.
No, the other thing is,
what I would have done, I would have given quick. I thought Keir Starmer's initial idea of round the clock sentencing, like quick sentences, I thought that was really good. But what I would have done is I would have gone, okay, but you're going to clean up what you've done.
Well, I can't agree with you about rapid fire justice, right? I can't agree with you because Because rapid fire justice is invariably justice with no due process. If you're accused of a crime, then you are absolutely allowed due process and the right to a fair trial, and you're presumed innocent. Now, I don't know if all of that's happening in 48 hours.
I'm not a fan of juries, but there we go.
Right, but if all that's happening in 48 hours, right, I don't see how that's possible, right? And, we might even talk about a certain...
Yeah, but if you're not handing out... If custodial sentences are off the table and you want restorative justice, I don't mind it.
But innocent people will be picked up for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, right?
Yeah, that's possible.
That's quite likely, actually. If you're rounding people up like that, innocent people are going to be picked. And I found Starmer's rhetoric around this terrifying.
The thing is, as well, I mean, you know where I stand politically. A lot of these riots, although, I mean, particularly the scene where they broke into the hotel where there was refugees, that was quite disturbing. But I was watching live stream of one in London, and I was comparing it to equivalent. You don't even have to go abroad to like France or where they really have rioting down to a fine art. Just within the UK, I was comparing them to other riots or other demonstrations where the police, these are supposed to be big, tough, far-right guys. And the police are just walking into the crowd, picking out whoever they want and arresting them. And all the other protesters who are on the same side of them are doing is just sort of slurring disapproval. I was like, no way could you have done that on a Black Lives Matter protest, one of the Palestinian protests, or any other protest, because the police just wouldn't have been able to do that. In America, the Antifa have this thing called de-arresting someone, where police will arrest someone and they will just take that, just by sheer weight of bodies, just take that person back off the police, and the police can't do anything about it. So not only are these riots pointless, they're completely ineffectual. They don't do anything. They have no conviction. The people there don't really believe in anything.
Well, there's two things here. I mean, one is that if there were planted agent provocateur types in these protests to start with, then they're going to go along with like the narrative. They know if they get arrested. If you remember Mark Stone, aka Mark Kennedy, right?
Yeah.
Right. The guy he kept getting arrested. He got arrested 29 times, but never got charged with anything. You've got guys like they're going to go along with the police narrative. The other thing is there's a reason, and I'll come to that in a second, as to why the police seem to be dealing with with certain protests with a great deal more gusto and enthusiasm than others. Because look, these people are not. The people got caught up in this nonsense. Some of them were drunk. Some of them were. There's some trouble going off. The psychology of it, mate, is very simple. It's that nobody wants to be that guy. This is the thing I was explaining to the barber. This is where I lost my train of thought. Nobody wants to be that guy who throws the first brick, who sets the first fire, who throws the first punch. Nobody wants to be that guy. Right? If you look at these things, right, there's a reticence about being that person. But once somebody's done it, that's when it becomes a riot, or making sense. Because it's almost like a green light for anybody else who wants to have a go. So if those people are in there already as provocateurs, what's very telling is these riots that they almost got like announced like a UK tour, like your favourite band announcing their tour dates. And then nobody turned up to them. Because I think without the abject provocateurs, they weren't going to turn it into riots. They were just people shouting at each other. And the worst thing, go on.
If I was a British government, I'd have watched these riots. I wouldn't lose much sleep over it, because if you compare them to, say, the anti-government movement of like hunger strikers, that really is something to worry about. This compared to that, it's just nothing. It's like literally, it's like a load of. It's like some drunk guys chucking stuff. It's
a tiny number of people, relative.
Yeah, it's a tiny number of people who've watched some Nigel Farage TikToks and then had a few beers and chuck stuff. It's literally nothing. Like, especially if you compare it to like the hunger strikers, like that would cause you to lose sleep.
I think you're giving Nigel Farage too much credit, fella.
I mean, it was just a name I picked out of thin air. Tommy Robinson.
The people give far too much credit to Farage and Robinson as if they are as if they're like influencers or that kind of thing. I think yeah, look, we can talk about we'll talk about party politics in a bit because we've got different thoughts and feelings about that. But just on this thing about what I thought the intention of like Starmer's rhetoric around this was really scary. Starmer, the noises he was making about, if you get caught up in this kind of thing, you will be arrested, you will be charged, and you will be found guilty. It will all happen very quickly. I don't think it's the Prime Minister of any country to be saying that, to be interfering with the process of justice in that way.
Yeah, but do you know how many? Have you seen in comparison though to somebody sent it me how many people in the UK get locked up for tweeting something naughty compared to Russia? It's like this country is a lot more authoritarian than people think.
Oh, it is absolutely. Well, it's been travelling in that direction for several years anyway, and it promises to get worse. I mean, Pete North, who's a future guest on this show, he wrote about this rather well in the week. He said, these people who got caught up in this trouble, we're going to call them riots. Let's put it in quotes. These people who got caught up in these skirmishes. Many of them I was just walking back through Preston actually, after we parted ways earlier on. And there's something coming on. There's something on a radio broadcast that somebody's got 6 years inside.
Yeah.
For his role in this, 6 years.
Yeah.
Right. And Pete made a very good point. He said, hang on, you've got people who get caught up in this kind of thing, getting longer and getting custodial sentences when you've got child molesters not getting custodial sentences.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of scary. And there's a reason why this is because you're entering a new kind of dystopia. This is why I think we were talking before going on air. We were talking about obviously the Labour Party leaders. I'm with you on this. I'd have been far more comfortable with Jeremy Corbyn winning than I am with Starmer, right?
Sure,
far more comfortable because I think Corbyn he scores far more highly on the sincerity and honesty scale than Starmer ever could. Corbyn, I think, is an incompetent buffoon, right? But he doesn't scare me. I don't think he's going to do anything frightening. Do you know what I mean?
No, like you said before, you could pick your Amazon delivery up off him.
Yeah, you'd have no problem letting him sign for it, would you?
If your iPad got delivered to his house accidentally, you wouldn't have to worry about him swiping it.
No, you wouldn't. Or if he came around your house and you went to put the kettle on and there was a bank statement on the table, he wouldn't read it.
No.
You very confidently wouldn't read it.
I was somewhat, to a certain extent, I was a fan of Jeremy Corbyn. I just didn't think he was a very good leader.
Well, I understand why people would be, but I thought he was out of his depth and didn't have, and he was probably in the wrong game. I don't think party politics is for him.
I think he found himself at the centre of something he hadn't really predicted would happen.
No, right. No, I don't think he had any idea he'd win. He only originally ran before it,
Yeah,
so,
it's a bit of a weird one.
But I understand why that is. I understand why people liked him. I understand. But
remember the day he won, I met you at the Bittersweet in Preston.
All right.
And we went to watch Preston. I think they played Derby County.
All right, okay. Yeah.
2015, something like that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I remember when he stood for the leader of the Labour Party originally. It was 100-1 when he first stood. And I thought 100 to 1 is a pretty good. That's pretty good odds. That actually, it's worth a fiver, isn't it? But
I thought McDonnell in 07 would have been better.
Well, no, I've got a different view about party politics. It's a good segue actually.
I think McDonnell would have been more capable.
Right, but do you not think that? Right, I mean, I've got my view about it. That actually, look, whether the Labour Tory paradigm is one that if you're going to sort of, in terms of understanding what's really going on, it's one of those paradigms you need to get off as soon as you physically can.
There's people on the left saying that now as well, actually.
Yeah, so it's one of those.
I think Owen Jones has arrived at the same conclusion.
Yeah, so it's like there's a couple of other things that matter. So look, something like Jeremy Corbyn, fine. We were talking about David Davis off there as well. I think we both think he's all right. But in terms,
probably infinitely more qualified to be a leader of the opposition than any of the people in the contest to be leadership of the opposition.
Yeah, that's a bit like winning the tallest dwarf contest, that though, isn't it? It's not terribly difficult, but I see your point.
I was driving back today, just listening to the radio after I've met you. I was just sat in a car, and there was all these. They were listing off the names, and I've literally never heard of them, any of them. I couldn't tell you anything about them.
No, but they're kind of nondescript and have never achieved anything, or I don't. I've heard of it because a few of them ran. The last few of them ran. I think a couple of them ran when
I thought one of them would be
when Liz Truss got in. Remember that brief?
What was that guy called? I thought one of them would be Johnny Minge. What's it? Not Johnny Minge. What's his name?
No, that's a different name for a different channel altogether, I think.
No, Johnny Mercer. Johnny Mercer. I thought one of them, the one who never shuts up about being in the army.
Right, but did he not lose his seat?
Yeah, he did.
Right.
That's because why is he not there? And I realised he lost his seat. But the way he goes, like he goes on about himself like he was in Predator or something. I was in the army. I was like, oh, shut up. I thought he'd be leader and he could talk more about being in the army, but he wasn't. It was somebody called Tom Tungahat. Tom Tungahat is his name. And he's a tungsten tip darts. And
he ran when Truss got it. Yeah, and that was a fascinating period of our history. Yeah.
Truss.
We went. Well, we went from 2 Liz's running the country to 1 to 0 in a very short order.
Yeah.
But yeah. So my take on the party politics side of it, and people come to me and say who do you vote for? Well, I don't kind of get involved in supporting political parties.
Next election, because the Tories are going to choose somebody completely inappropriate to be leader, and Labour are going to win at a canter again. I'll probably vote Workers' Party. Right, but do you think that? Right, do you think you may right? So feeding in what I was going to say there, do you think the Workers' Party is that the Galloway law? Yeah. Right. If they're still going. So do you think the Workers' Party are on the honesty and sincerity paradigm? Do you think they're on the right side of that? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Do you think because that's more important to me, right? Yes. It is that if you are going to be if you're going to be elected to be a public official in a country like this one, your first interest is to actually work for the benefit of the people. You're a civil servant, right? Who voted in the election that you won. Right, including the people who voted for somebody else, right? It's like what I told you before about the former Liberal Democrat leader. I don't want to dox myself. Who was my MP? Yeah, and okay, the one who was a Christian. Yes, presumably still is. Right. Yeah. Yes. But when I asked for help, the question was not who did you vote for? What is your religion? It was just what happened to you. How did that happen? Right. Okay. Leave it with me. Yeah, I mean, the person you're on about probably is a sincere person and probably is a genuine person, but I think maybe when it comes to certain subjects, for me, isn't the brightest. I mean, it just seems to have a few blind spots, right? Probably doesn't read the room. Yeah. Getting me off a parking ticket, outstanding. Right. 90 quid parking ticket in 2009. And he gets your vote for that, right? But £90 in 2009 was a lot of money. It still is a lot of money, actually. Pre-inflation, it's it doesn't get you a trolley full of shopping like it used to. But back then it would get me like 2 weeks shopping or something. It would, there'd be stuff bursting out the trolley. Oh yeah, and that'd be 2 good shops with like beers and wines and cheeses. Yeah, that's the one you get on payday, I think. But people ask me about my politics all the time. I'm like, well, not really, because people I've been called all sorts of things. A Tory. One guy, do you remember that American blogger Bernard Shapin? Do you remember him? Yeah, he was a regular poster. That men's rights guy. He he went a bit wacky. And I ended up concluding he was just a sexist pig. Actually, that's what I ended up concluding about it. But
he.
He'd been married though.
Yeah, had been. I think that's but past tense. But I remember him asking me, Daz, have you ever thought of joining UKIP, which is basically now Reform, right? And I went, no, right? And I got asked about Reform. Do you vote for them? Do you support them and things like that? No, absolutely not. And I think that thing about whether you are, that honesty paradigm is far more important. The sincerity paradigm is far more important than the, the thing about like left, right, and stuff like that. Actually, no, you and me have very different political views. Yeah, but someone asked me, why do you have so many friends who have different politics to you? Well, it's because I'm, me, you would disagree with me and think I'm wrong about stuff, but they are my politics are sincerely kind of thought out, and so are yours. And we basically want the same basic stuff, don't we? We want jobs for people, jobs that pay wages, people
dignity.
Yeah, healthcare, good education for kids,
safety net.
Say right, and and defence from crime and invasion, and we want that stuff, right? Now, what you've got now is I've never seen a worse political class ever. Like we just mentioned the people who are standing for the leadership of one of the two big parties in this country, and it's like I don't know. It looks like a list of leftovers, doesn't it?
I mean, there's a lot of people in the Labour Party I can slag off. Believe me.
Yeah, for sure. You could say the same thing the other way. I mean, they've it's tragic to think that with Starmer, you're saying that they've lucked out. I mean, he's a third-rate non-entity in a previous era. Like he really is.
Starmer,
yeah, he is, and it shows you how poor this generation of politicians is.
I mean, if I had to pick somebody that does articulate my political beliefs, it would have to be Mick Lynch.
Is he the transport union guy?
Yeah. I mean, I feel more represented by him than I do by Keir Starmer. To be honest, Keir Starmer is just It's like he's just a block of wood. I mean, he's literally nothing to me.
But he hasn't got a personality. That's the other thing. No. And I'm very suspicious of anybody who hasn't got a personality.
Yeah, me too.
Anybody who hasn't got a sense of humour, you go, that's.
Yeah, he doesn't look like the kind of guy I could have a laugh with at work. No,
because if you haven't got a sense of humour, we were talking about somebody else, a certain football personality. They're the sort of people who, if you said the wrong thing when they were in the room, they would cancel your season ticket or whatever. Yeah. That's it. They haven't got the ability to laugh something off and go, well, that's what he thinks. Yeah. And this is really back to the original point about the quote unquote riots, and that is that this was done. This was a look. Don't mess. The message has gone out. The reason that these penalties are so harsh is we've now got a sort of subset of criminal offence in this country, which is crimes against the state itself, right? And it's almost like political crime, the sort of thing you would have in a third world hellhole. You've got this extrajudicial thing where, if you commit a crime against state orthodoxy, it will be dealt with far more severely than it will, if you broke into somebody's house. Now, people say, well, what's this two-tier policing about? Why is there less gusto about BLM? Well, that's the whole point. They're committing regular crime, right?
To be fair to,
whereas these far-right criminals they're committing this new category. But by the way,
were Black Lives Matter? I don't know. I mean, I'm not being facetious. I'm asking a genuine question. Were Black Lives Matter putting people's windows through?
Black Lives Matter were committing crimes.
No, I mean, were they putting?
They were destroying property, and they were being violent.
No, but I mean, were they? Because what I saw that was quite worrying from these riots is there was actual residents, places where people live, were having the front room windows put through and stuff.
Right. Well, I'm pretty sure there was some. I mean,
I'm sorry, but like chucking a statue in the water isn't as bad as actually someone's in their home. They're in their home, the door is closed and the window gets put through. I'm sorry, that's worse than throwing a statue in the river.
Well, yeah, but you're talking about people's businesses getting damaged, and and there were sort of
because that's what I saw. Right. That's what I saw. There was I think that was in, I can't remember, it was Liverpool, Southport. I remember watching
I'm talking about BLM as well. I'm talking about BLM as well. I'm talking about violence, it kicking off, passers-by getting caught up, and public property being damaged, and all. They were pretty bad.
I've actually been on quite a few Palestine demonstrations, and I've never seen any crime.
Okay.
I've really not seen any.
Right.
I haven't seen any. So I think it's a false equivalence when people compare the Palestine demonstrations, which are, I mean, you've got Anglican vicars on Palestine demonstrations and stuff. I mean, there's generally zero alcohol. It's a completely different kettle of fish to walking down a residential street where people actually live and putting the windows through, chucking wheelie bins. By the way, if a wheelie bin goes missing, good luck trying to get one back, a new one off the council, because it ain't happening. Councils aren't that helpful. So what I would say is these riots that have happened, I won't say far right riots, just the riots that have happened the past couple of weeks, they're more detrimental to people who live in residential areas than any of the other riots.
Well, I don't think. Look, I mean, the Palestine thing. I mean, I don't think because you got these demonstrations with the people waving the flag about and free Palestine and the like, and I don't. I would say the same thing, mate. About I wouldn't be surprised at all if when it has gone off, right? It's because they've had agitators on both sides.
Possibly.
Right? Possibly. And that's I mean in terms of groups like Antifa as well.
I remember years ago watching that happen with I forget, it seems so long ago now, but it really wasn't, the anti-fracking protests.
Yeah, absolutely. So what they do is say anti-fracking and environmentalism before that. Have you heard all the crazy stuff about environmentalists and like the Animal Liberation Front, and where they try to burn down hunting and life sciences as well. And they've been doing this. It's been going on for a long time. Infiltrating political protests. It's been happening. It's not a left-right thing. I think it's very dangerous if people overreact to this, because it's going to be used. It's going to be used as an absolute sledgehammer to protest, dissent, all sorts of stuff. You just know with these people who are in charge now, they've got some very, very authoritarian tendencies. I've got to say this. I say this. I'm not defending the government that just got voted out in any way. They were incompetent. They were arrogant. They were useless. But
malevolent.
Yeah, but actually, in some ways, their lack of motivation and their uselessness may have been helpful in the sense that,
I remember saying to somebody, I can't remember, they were saying, like, we're really lucky that so much, because they had a massive majority in 2019. So I remember thinking, in some ways, I remember a couple of people, and myself included, were saying, in a lot of ways, the left are kind of lucky that so much of the Tories' bandwidth was taken up by COVID, that they just, because there's nothing worse than when the Tories just come up with ideas and do stuff, and it's something stupid like privatization of trains, or oh god, what was that thing with that other stupid thing they came up with during COVID, eat out to help out and stuff like that, because the Tories are terrible at ideas. They just come up with so much bad stuff.
I don't think it's a Tory. I don't think it's a Tory problem. I just think that.
Oh, come on.
No, I don't. I think you're going to see some terrible ideas in the next few years as well. I mean, it's a political class problem. We've got a very
as bad as that.
Yes, you are. You've got
Brexit. Even if you're in favour of Brexit, my God.
Yeah, but why not discredit the idea by executing it terribly? Or look, in fact, in terms, or people who don't know what they're doing. You could give somebody who doesn't know what they're doing a very good idea, and they would have no idea how to implement it, or they might implement it badly on purpose. I don't know.
I mean, even just before they lost the election, what was the idea? Bring back national service.
It's a dumb idea. It's a dumb idea. It's stupid. I mean, it's opening yourself up to all sorts of top 10 lists of things we should also bring
when
back.
the Tories have time on their hands. Oh my God, it's bad.
But look, it's not a Tory thing. It's not a Labour thing. It's a political class thing. They're two cheeks for me. They're two cheeks of the same arse. You've got an incredibly dumb, inept, incompetent pool of career politicians generally. I can't believe how bad it actually is, right? And I wouldn't be looking at one side or the other. It's a far bigger problem, and it's also about their integrity or lack of, and it's about who they're working for, which is not the people who voted for them, right?
Yeah.
And if there are sort of if we're in a kind of age where there's a wider globalist agenda going on, and there are there's things like you can't question now. So woke is like an international thing, and there are sort of fight backs against it in individual countries, but it's a global phenomenon. Wokery, climate change, that scary Omen 666 woman from a few years ago. It's like I said at the time. I go, what's this kid doing? Getting up and speaking at the UN. Anyone else find it suspicious? No, you can't say that. Yes, I can, but no, you can't. It's like it's accepted as conventional wisdom now, and there's got to be stuff. Look at what they do with electric cars and closing roads. There's something. There's more to this, and it's not.
I wouldn't. Closing roads. I wouldn't be as opposed to that as you think. If the infrastructure was better, I would be perfectly all right with limiting the use of cars.
Yeah. So we've got a comment anyway. So Pavlov's frog, thank you for the comment. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Pavlov.
Yeah. So the problem is these career politicians and their advisors get template training from the same place. Seldom ever public make a participating decision. That's absolutely correct.
Pavlov's frog. What I've noticed, because I watch politics in Britain, and I watch political interviews rather in Spain. What I would say, what happens when you're watching a political interview in Britain, which wouldn't be tolerated in Spain, is basically the interviewer will ask them a question. They will say something that is completely irrelevant, and then they'll just move on. They'll just go, well, I can see you're not going to answer the question. They'll be given a line by their advisor. Whatever happens, whatever they say, you just say this line.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, well, I've noticed a bunch of things, including that. So that's almost like the art.
No, but it's almost like they have been given a couple of sentences to say word for word that will answer every question.
I'll tell you this, and Pavlov's point spot on, right? You can spot the difference between a career politician and one of those minority of genuine people who fell through the cracks, right? Like the one we were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Who used to be your MP. The difference between those two groups of people is palpable. And you can spot it. I've one interview with each, right? And you can spot it immediately.
Yeah.
Right? And a career politician, this is part of my point, actually, I was making earlier, and Pavlov's articulated probably better than I could have done. And that is that a career politician is a career politician is a career politician, whether it's Tory, Labour, whatever.
Yeah.
And actually, what we probably need to do is get off that, it's Labour, it's the Tories, right? But, the after Tories mugs, just put back in the cupboard, right? What we've got to be against is career politicians, right? If you want to take politics seriously, we've got to be against career politicians of all kinds and actually insist, right, that if you're going to be a representative, you have some sort of history of doing something else that have nothing to do with politics at all. Because
I would say if you're going to be a minister for, I don't know, education, you should have had to have worked in education. If you're going to be minister for health, you should have had to have worked in a patient-facing role, be it as a nurse or a doctor or something, within the NHS. If you want to be Minister for Defence, you should have had to have been in one of the uniformed forces.
I wouldn't go that far. I just think you have to have shown some sort of competence at something and done something in real life, and actually, that tends to be people who've run businesses, right? Really run businesses, started businesses, and things like that that have ended up working.
People say that, but then it's like what did they start about 10 years ago? They started saying this thing like, a startup. I did a startup. Like, what's a startup? It's just a nothing. It's just moving numbers around a spreadsheet or something. It's not like you're actually providing a service to people.
No, I mean a real business that actually did something.
I told you before about the when I was having the discussion at the chip shop. And the guy who said, well, I can tell you my checks and balances. I've kept this chip shop open for 40 years. Someone like that, I would classify as a businessman. But just someone who wanders around saying, when you've got a startup, I've worked in startups. It's nothing.
I know that. I know the difference, right? But also, people who've worked in public services as well, like the military and have just actually distinguished themselves, right?
I don't know, like a minister for transport. You could have been as I think was it? I forget. I think it was Ken Livingstone, who was actually a bus driver. Someone like that.
Ken Livingstone wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, was he?
No, but I'm giving an example. To be honest, mate, the bus driving's a tough job.
I know it's a tough job.
It's more to it than you think.
I'm not saying it's an easy job. And it's probably not the best well-paid job either.
No, it's a tough job, that, man.
Yeah, but
that's doing it once. It's hard.
But that's a fundamental difference for me. It's a kind of politics that generates career politicians on all sides. It's a horrible game in that sense, and I can't bring myself to sort of be passionately for one side and passionately against another, and say, it'll all be all right.
I'm not passionately for Labour. I just hate a lot of what the Tories have done.
Yeah, but I can't even be much more for one side than the other. I understand the two.
With Labour, I'm more disappointed.
Right, they're like when you got sort of you get a tennis ball and it's got like two colours on it. You might have luminous yellow and luminous pink on the tennis ball.
Yeah,
and it's like that. They're kind of intertwined. They're like yin and yang. Honestly, I don't see them as. I don't even see them as separate things anymore. They're kind of part of a far more rotten system. And I mean, I think as long as people are tribal about it and think, it'll all be better if we get rid of X and get Y.
I think a lot of that one thing, the only grain of hope I had when I was voting for Labour is that I thought they might bring in PR. But now they've had such a big majority, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, the turkey won't be wanting for Christmas, will it?
No. They're safe for like 10 years, so I don't think they're going to be bringing in PR and having smaller parties make their lives more difficult. So that's not going to happen. But one grain of hope I did think. I thought, well, if Labour win, then we might get PR. They've not even mentioned it, so that ain't happening.
Well, yeah. I mean, PR is. It's like anything else. You said about Brexit earlier, right?
Yeah.
And I could say the same thing about PR. I could say the same thing about another pet of mine from years ago, Sortition, right? Now, I don't know if you please make sure you watch Mark's show that I've been on. Mark's touched on this a few times in citizens' assemblies. Sound like a great idea, don't they? Right? Let's get randomly selected people and make the decisions, right?
No.
Right. Well, they sound
juries. Juries sound like a great idea, and then they're not.
Right. Well, because the reason that juries are open to being tampered with, right? And actually, the people who tamper will come. Right. We'll go for another 10 minutes if you want. That's all right with you.
Yeah, that's cool.
But the main people who tamper with juries are judges. So it's not gangsters or mobsters or anything. It is probably dodgy.
I've been reading a lot this past sort of 2 years, maybe longer. I've been reading a lot into a case. I would encourage everybody else to, if you're interested in individual liberty or collective security. But there's a case in Scotland. It's not covered by English law. It's covered Scottish law. Luke Mitchell.
Right.
I'll say no more. Are you familiar with that one, Darren?
I will check the name out. I know the name from somewhere.
The Luke Mitchell case in Scotland. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
All I'll say, I'll let everybody. I don't want to prejudice a case or get anyone into trouble. What I would say is definitely look that up, people. The Luke Mitchell case in Scotland.
Look at the evidence, maybe draw your own conclusions,
and then come back and talk to me about juries.
Right. Well, look, there's been a very recent court case that has got back in the news recently with a lot of people questioning the verdict about a certain nurse who's got a few life sentences.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And what I find interesting about that is, the jury in that case actually was deliberating for several weeks, if I remember rightly on that.
Okay.
They were gone for a while. They did not find her guilty, on the same day or anything like that. They were gone for quite a bit.
I'm a bit confused on that because I'm not really a legally minded person. But forgive me if this is an incorrect interpretation of the events. But what I've noted down here when I was looking at it before we came online. The problem with the Lucy Letby case isn't that she's potentially innocent; it's that it's an unsafe conviction, which produces a scary precedent for any future cases.
Yeah, look,
open the door to more miscarriages of justice.
There were a bunch of us, and I remember talking to Mark about it at the time, and there were a bunch of us saying this is a really dodgy conviction. I mean, really dodgy, to the point where
which creates a scary precedent.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even say what some of the things that were really said by people.
But is that a correct interpretation of the event?
Well, I think. Look, legally, you've just got to ask the question: is that a safe conviction? Hell no. I mean, just looking at it. I mean, like the case that was made in court was. I can't believe a jury found her guilty, to be honest. But the case that was made in court was 100% circumstantial, right? And even that was wobbly. It's wobbly even calling it that because there's all sorts of stuff around this timeline where they said this person was present and all these people died, all these kids died, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's being presented as like the centerpiece of their case, right?
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that there's a load of other deaths, right, that have either not been considered as suspicious or have been excluded entirely from the timeline where this nurse wasn't there, was nowhere near it. So it's what you call the Texas sharpshooter fallacy, if you're familiar with that as a concept.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so for the uninitiated, that's where somebody fires a load of bullets, right? Yeah. And then they draw a target in the middle of the bullets, and they go, "What a good shot! What a good shot I have!" So, and that's bang in the middle of this. And the reality is, there's other deaths either side of this range that they focused on that we've conveniently decided aren't suspicious at all. It's really wobbly, and people like Dr. Phil Hammond in Private Eye, and quite a few other medical experts have come out and said this is. There is a podcast called "We Need to Talk About Lucy Letby," which is on Apple, and I recommend it. And it's qualified people with knowledge who are on there, and it's a very, very suspect case. And I the thing that's caught my eye, mate, about this is the people who the people are making the noise. They're being allowed to make noise, and it's getting a bit of oxygen. This is the sort of thing.
Yeah, Peter Hitchens is on with it, and big names.
Yeah, well, I've got mixed feelings about Peter Hitchens, but
he's. I'm not a fan, but he's a big name.
Yeah, he is a big name, but but the fact that this is being given the oxygen that it is, it seems to me to be fairly obvious to a lot of people that this isn't going to stand. That sooner or later they're going to have to let her out, right? And it looks to me like the way it's being controlled. I was just saying to Mark actually in the week. This is my view only, right? But I was saying that I think this is about managing the narrative. When it all tumbles out and they have to let her out, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have to manage the narrative around this because there are two explanations in life generally when things like this happen: the cock-up theory and the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Right? So was it all a ghastly mistake, or was Letby actually the patsy for wider failings in that hospital? Was this actually a shambolically run hospital, right, where people died because of negligence, incompetence, whatever?
Yeah.
And was this woman thrown under the bus to cover that up, or was it all just a terrible mistake? So obviously, so it's a lot better for those involved that were led to believe it was all a terrible mistake.
The problem for me is I watch these things, like I watched on Netflix the series Making a Murderer. I don't know if you saw that.
The Stephen Avery thing. Yeah, just think about Stephen Avery.
Yeah. It's like some episodes would be like, oh yeah, he did it, and then another episode would be like, no way, no, he didn't do it, and then the next episode would be like, yeah, and that. So I, with these things, I'm always like, I haven't got a clue. I just don't have a clue. I just don't know.
I wouldn't necessarily draw. I don't necessarily think that's a great analogy, because I think Stephen Avery had a bit of history, and I don't think he was.
He didn't.
He was no angel, right? I think we can safely agree on that.
He threw a cat on a bonfire. I mean, as someone who loves cats, a cat owner. That's owner. That sounds horrible. Someone who lives with a cat. That's really disturbing.
It is. If you know anything about psychology as well, you'll know that deliberately hurting animals is an enormous red flag for psychopathy as well.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've no doubt Stephen Avery was a pretty rough character in his day.
Yeah. Whereas Lucy Letby hasn't. There's no history. There's no previous.
No. She seems fairly.
There's no record even of bad behaviour.
She seems fairly bland, sort of.
Yeah, so somebody could easily have been your next door neighbour or something.
Yeah.
But I'm not like you. I'm not saying she's innocent. I think this calls for a retry. I'm just looking at the evidence I've seen. It looks like a very, very unsafe conviction. It looks like it's got retrial written all over it.
Yeah, definitely.
How
many viewers have we got there?
Not many. Not many. We've had a handful. I'm telling you, right? It's been people dipping in and out, I think.
Oh, I've not been good for the ratings then.
No, well, it's my fault. But look, it's going to be. We'll get more people watch it. We'll get more people watch it when, after the fact. I think you always do with these things. But we'll have to do another one, and hopefully it'll be more popular. But we've had people sort of I've just had a few more, a couple more pop in just then. So we've had a few people popping in and out of here. So,
okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of but it might be the same people. Who knows? But that is quite an important case, and I just I'd keep half an eye on it and see how it pans out, because I think
definitely.
It's going to play out in a particular way. The other thing being that, if they end up letting her out, but they don't actually exonerate her, so they don't actually say the conviction was unsafe, as opposed to we don't think you did it, because that's all you can say legally. You can't declare a person innocent.
No.
You can just say that the conviction was unsafe.
Yeah.
That's going to cause a hell of a lot of problems, because there are going to be people with there are going to be grieving parents who are they're going to be put through that process all over again, and they're going to want proper answers. Well, if this nurse didn't kill the kids, who did, or what did? Yeah, and then there are going to be people who believe, well, it's a bit like, do you remember when the Birmingham 6 got out in the early 90s?
But it was Birmingham 6, like 1990. Was that Paddy Hill and?
I'm pretty sure that was them. The Irish guys. If I got it wrong,
actually,
the Conlons as well. Yeah. And there was a campaign against them where they said, they got out on a technicality. Remember, there was a whispering campaign. There were people who wouldn't accept the verdict of the appeal court and said, they didn't. Yeah, okay. The conviction was found to be unsafe. They got out on a technicality rather than they didn't do it. There was even a Tory MP who got a kind of cease and desist order because he kept saying it.
I think that might have been Lord Wellington.
No, it wasn't. That was I won't say the guy's name, but that was a Conservative MP who also used to run a football club. He was the chairman of the football club, I'll give you a clue. Sheffield Football Club had a plastic pitch and they banned away supporters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of a riot. Because of a riot in a cup match.
Is it the one that Preston are playing? Is it the one Preston North End are going to play against?
Yeah. They're the championship now. Yeah. So, but we've done an hour, by the way. So we're going to wrap up in a minute. Is there anything else in particular you wanted to discuss quickly just before we wrap up?
No, I think I've more. Perhaps for the next one is somebody who reads is reading a lot. A substitute for traveling a lot. If we're talking in terms of experiences of people and places and personalities, can you get that from reading fiction, literature, as you can from traveling and living a life? I'm going to argue it's a very good substitute in a way that watching films isn't.
Right, the case for books, basically.
Yes, the case for books, yeah.
The case for books. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Shall we ponder that one for the next show? And anyone else who's watching, and we'll do that. And yeah,
any more comments?
For me, no. I mean, Pavlov's is the only significant comment here. But we've got it. Yeah, look, it's slow going on something like this. Always will be.
Remember, you got loads of comments last week.
Yeah, but that was on my show. It's not my show. You remember?
You were the guest.
I was a guest. I was you. I was you on that show.
Right.
But we've done the hour and a minute. So look, thank you to those people who have.
Just a quick question. Do you ever watch LBC or listen to LBC? Something for you to ponder. The James O'Brien show.
Yeah.
You know the concept of a jobber in wrestling?
I do know the concept.
Does James O'Brien get jobbers calling him?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll just wrap this up because somebody was talking to me about this in the week. They were listening to Jeremy Vine. Bless him.
Yeah, Jeremy Vine gets jobbers.
Yeah. Well, I won't hold that against him for listening to Jeremy Vine. But he asked me, he told me, it's dead funny. There's this guy ran the Jeremy Vine show, right? And this is why we're just stressing a bit of caution here on this kind of thing. And he was really anti-immigration. He was like banging on. He was being really stupid, talking like generalizations and saying there were no-go areas where he lived and right. And he said, and Jeremy Vine said, well, can you point out where they are? And he sounded like an idiot, right? Because he kept backpedaling. He kept saying, that's what I've heard, right? And I just wrote back and said, that sounds like a planted caller. And you're absolutely right. It sounds like a straw man that's been set up for the presenter to knock down. A jobber.
Yeah, definitely.
A paid to lose. But yeah, so a jobber, for those who are uninitiated in the world of wrestling, is one of those. Well, jobber would be, one of those guys typically who, back in the day, if you watched old wrestling, they didn't get an intro. They were currently in the ring from parts unknown, weighing, going back, right? And then they'd introduce the star who would proceed to smash them to pieces in a couple of minutes, 1, 2, 3, pin, right? And these people were there for the specific purpose of making their opponent look good.
A journeyman in boxing.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I was saying, we do know a bit about plants in the Question Time audience as well from a few years ago. Do you remember that? There were these people who kept rocking up in Question Time in different places, and they kept asking questions as well, or making comments from the audience. But hang on, I was like, but you're in Derby, you were in Motherwell 2 weeks ago, and they kept.
Now he's in Merthyr Tydfil,
Yeah, exactly. But if you ever apply to be in the audience on Question Time, you go through a lottery. You actually have to apply to go on, and you have to state your affiliation, your party affiliation before you get chosen, right? And so these people were, if you see the same person appearing in the Question Time audience and getting invited to participate in different parts of the country, then And I pointed that out, and he said, and my mate said, I don't actually have a problem with that. Well, I do, because if, let's say you've got a person with a particular kind of politics, right? And they have an idea. I know, let's get somebody who has a completely different kind of politics to me. I'll give you a good example. If you don't eat meat, you don't eat meat, do you? Right? Have you ever noticed?
I actually do.
You do. You're right. You've fallen off. Well, okay, that's fine. But in terms of people who don't eat meat, so when you get carnivores cooking for vegetarians, there are certain things they'll do.
Right.
Yeah, they're still there. So one of them is that they'll put cheese in everything. They're convinced that vegetarians love cheese, right?
Yeah.
And this is the thing. So if you get somebody who's like got woke politics, they'll do an Al Murray. So if they have to design a right wing person, and they'll basically these people who they call gammons, right? Who are a bit stupid and a bit thick. They think that everybody who disagrees with them is like that. And so they design this terrible parody, get them to ring the show or make a comment from the audience. Yeah, these aren't real people. These are caricatures that have been invented to sort of like steer the narrative in a particular direction. Yeah, because nobody likes being associated with idiots. I'm saying to you earlier, just because you believe in nation states and sovereign democracy and rule at the most local possible level, doesn't mean you have to support a kind of ragtag and bobtail bunch of phonies like Reform UK. They are a shambolic organisation. Yeah, they've got far more in common with some weird cults than they have with a serious political organisation. You are, I mean, why just don't touch them with a barge pole would be my advice. But that leads us on to actually next week we'll be having Pete North on the show, and he knows a bit more about that than either of us.
Oh, great!
That sort of thing. He has.
I look forward to talking to him.
Yeah, a great deal of experience about that kind of politics. So hopefully Pete will not get a better offer in the week, and we'll have him on the show on next Friday. So so all I'll say is thanks for everybody who has listened, has dipped in and out, even caught a few minutes of our content, whatever.
And a big thanks to Market Bottle Shop for sponsoring tonight's show.
Right, thank you. Yeah, brought to you in association with, and we'll catch you for the next one. And that'll be over and out. Anything else from you before we go?
No, I'm gonna go to the shop, get some wine, and watch a film.
Okay, well, have a good evening, mate, and everybody who's watched, thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, mate.